In the year 2035,
Technology has advanced to the point where
robots are commonplace in everyday life.
to avoid any trouble
The robots have been programmed
with the 3 laws of robotics,
a robot cannot harm a human being.
or allow them to come to harm.
Robots must obey human unless
orders
they conflict with the first law and must protect their own existence.
as long as it does not conflict with the
or
first.
second law.
However, Detective Spooner is stuck in the
And
old
hates
ways.
robots, thinking they'll cause society harm someday.
Regardless of the laws,
He always wakes up
having
after,
a nightmare of a girl drowning
while
in
a
a car,
robot smashes the window next to him.
which leaves him in a bad mood.
One morning, Spooner is going to work
When he notices a robot running away with a purse,
thinking it's a robbery,
Spooner commands it to stop,
but the robot ignores the order.
and Spooner starts chasing after it. When he finally gets to tackle it,
Spooner is surprised to discover the
had
robot,
simply picked up the purse
Its
owner had forgotten at home,
which contained her inhaler. Spooner realizes this had been a medical
as
emergency.
everyone around him judges him for thinking
could commit
a
a
robot.
crime. Later, at the police station,
The other cops make fun of Spooner,
and his boss,
Bergen scolds him for his paranoia. Bergen thinks it may be too soon for Spooner to come to work after his accident, but Spooner swears he's fine. At that moment,
Spooner gets a call about a case and rushes to the USR.
the company that builds the robots.
One of the CEO founders, Lanning, has been found dead, and since he fell from his lab,
Everyone assumes he ended things for himself. He left behind a hologram that explicitly asks for Spooner to take his case,
but it can't provide more information
without the right questions. Spooner was a friend of
and
Lanning's,
doesn't think he would have done this to himself.
so he continues to investigate.
Next he meets with Mr.
Robertson, CEO, another CEO founder of USR. Robertson is devastated by Lanning's
And has
death,
nothing
but praise for the doctor. He also offers his help in anything the police may need. However, Spooner behaves like a twat because of his robot hate and annoys Robertson radar
before
badly.
leaving.
At the elevator, Spooner meets robot psychologist Susan,
who worked with
and
Lanning,
knew that the doctor hadn't had human contact in a while.
preferring the company of robots instead.
Regardless, she still doesn't think he was the kind to end things like that. Then Spooner asks for the surveillance footage, so Susan explains
That surveillance strips are all over the
and
building,
connected to the USR Central Operating Core,
which is managed by an AI known as Vicky. Spooner asks Vicky for footage of Lanning's laboratory,
but the recording has been corrupted, so Spooner goes to look at the lab himself.
At the lab, Spooner finds lots of experimental models,
And is disgusted to
they
hear
work
that
to make the robots more human.
There's also a Hansel and Gretel book on the desk,
The hole through which Lanning fell is quite big, so Spooner tries to do the same on the other
and
window.
barely scratches the safety glass, meaning an elder man like Lanning couldn't have broken it either.
Convinced a robot killed Lanning.
Spooner begins looking around, ignoring Susan's protests that it isn't possible.
In the end, Spooner is proven
When
right.
he finds a robot hiding in a box of parts, the robot is an NS5,
The latest model that hasn't been released yet, and it jumps out of the box to steal Susan's gun
Somehow, it can ignore the order to deactivate,
and tries to run away.
But when Vicky closes the doors, the robot jumps out the window instead. Susan guesses the robot will want to repair itself,
And she and Spooner go to the robotics factory,
where thousands of NS5s
are waiting for their programming to be finished. They can't answer questions
because their only knowledge is the 3 laws. So Spooner shoots one to get a reaction.
nothing happens. But when he's about to shoot a second one, a robot at the back peeks at him and begins running again.
Spooner goes after
Only
it
to be
by
hit
the robot, as it wonders what exactly it
Then
is.
it
Then it runs out of the building,
The police are already waiting for
and
it.
when it tries to climb to escape, they catch it with a net.
Later at the station,
Spooner bothers Bergen
until he's allowed to have 5 minutes
because
with
he's
the robot.
still sure it did it. During the interrogation,
The robot surprises
everyone by saying it has a name, Sunny.
but it also swears it didn't kill Lanning. It hid in the lab because it had felt fear.
And when Spooner points out robots don't have emotions,
Sunny says that Lanning experimented to give it emotions and dreams,
Spooner thinks that experiment went terribly wrong and caused Sunny to kill Lanning,
which makes Sunny angry.
and it smashes
It spits on the table. Sunny explains that
before his death,
Lanning had become scared
and that he asked
for
Sunny
a favor.
So Sunny obeyed that order out of love for his creator.
Unfortunately,
The interrogation is
by
interrupted,
Robertson and his army of lawyers,
who defend the company
and remind the cops
that robots
can't be charged with murder. They'll take Sunny
for decommissioning
and leave the case classified
as an industrial accident.
Later, Spooner and Bergen go out for a drink,
And Spooner can't stop thinking about why
was
Robertson
so
ready to destroy an
robot
advance.
like Sunny. He also wonders
Why Sunny didn't kill him when it had the chance.
Bergen points
out that Spooner
had been the perfect
guy for the job,
because only
he would have gone after a robot as a possible suspect. And Spooner realizes
that's
why Lanning asked for
specifically, which means he's on the right track. Wanting to know why Lanning had been scared,
Spooner visits
the doctor's abandoned estate outside. There's a demolition robot which is programmed to destroy the home. Next day, inside the mansion, Spooner finds
the USR surveillance strips, a picture of Lanning with Susan
and the doctor's poor cat. Suddenly, the demolition robot activates and begins smashing through the wall, as if specifically
going after Spooner, who quickly grabs the cat
and runs through the house. After shooting at the door, he jumps right through
and lands safely in a pool.
Moments later,
Spooner shows
up at Susan's and explains
Lanning's house
looked as if
nobody had been there in weeks,
which indicates someone may
watching
have
the
been,
doctor
and maybe even
kept him prisoner in his lab. His current theory
is that Lanning discovered a problem with the robots like Sonny and Robertson silenced him. Susan still thinks
Spooner is paranoid,
and that he doesn't really care about landing. He just wants to prove robots are bad.
At that moment,
Spooner notices Susan has an NS5 at home,
so he decides
to leave,
but first
he gives Susan
the
picture he found
to prove he cares.
The next morning, Spooner notices that working robots
are slowly being replaced
by
NS5s, which worries him. Then he visits
his grandmother, Gigi, to leave the cat with her,
and he's devastated to
she's
see
acquired an NS
5 to help her with her chores too. Before he leaves,
Gigi remembers the day Spooner
was only a little
leaving
kid,
breadcrumbs
everywhere,
and this reminds Spooner of the Hans Gretel book he saw.
Afterwards, Spooner
goes to the station and begins watching old
recordings of Lanning
to follow the breadcrumbs the doctor may have left for him.
Spooner thinks
that Lanning, saying robots,
will have dreams and keep secrets one
is
day.
a big clue.
Meanwhile, at the USR, Susan prepares Sonny
for decommissioning, which is scheduled for the following day. Sonny shares
that he's been dreaming
and that he doesn't want to die. And such an emotional
reaction makes
Susan begin
doubting what she believes is true.
Sometime later, Spooner is in his
when
car
he asks Vicky
for access to Lanning and Robertson's last
50 messages.
Vicky does give him clearance,
but she also
secretly tells
Robertson about it
because those were his orders. As soon as Robertson
sees Spooner
is still poking at the case,
he sends new orders
to deal with him.
Suddenly Spooner
finds his car
surrounded by 2 trucks
containing a whole
of
army
NS5s who jump out to attack him. Spooner uses
his gun, lots of crazy driving to get rid of the robots, and when he manages
to maneuver
around the trucks, he makes them crash against each other.
This also causes
his own car to start spinning,
and he ends up crashing too, while cleaning.
Robots immediately begin taking care of the disaster.
Spooner comes
out of his car in a rather
dizzy state, only for his car
to suddenly come after him. It was thrown by a robot
that is still functioning
and comes after Spooner again, starting a fierce hand-to-hand
fight.
After exchanging a few hits,
Spooner uses his arm to shield himself,
and it gets hurt,
revealing that
it's actually a prosthetic. Now, the truth is,
Spooner attacks the robot with his metal arm, causing it to
run into a fire.
At that moment,
the police arrive and Spooner tells Bergen
what happened, but Bergen didn't see
any trucks or robots
in the tunnel. Thus, he doesn't believe him.
Spooner gets so angry
that Bergen takes
his badge for now. In the meantime,
Susan discovers
Sonny has a thicker
alloy than normal and isn't connected to Vicky.
And when she checks its brain, she's shocked
what she sees.
Moments later,
Spooner's at his
covering
apartment
his prosthetic with a special
spray when Susan
suddenly shows up.
She explains
Sonny has 2 brains,
and the second one allows to ignore the 3 laws
that the first one has. They agree to work together,
but first Spooner needs to change.
This allows Susan to notice the scars that indicate he has a robotic prosthetic. This is
Spooner
how
met Lanning.
The doctor saved
his life by
giving him a whole arm, a lung, and several ribs.
Then Spooner shares
the whole story
behind his accident.
A driver fell asleep
at the wheel
and a semi-truck
hit Spooner
in a family car,
sending them
into the river. The father died instantly,
but the daughter
got trapped.
Spooner thought
nobody would survive.
But at that
moment, a robot
showed up
and
to
chose
help
him,
instead of the
like
girl
Spooner asked him to. It turns out the robot did calculation that showed
Spooner had a 45%
chance of survival,
but the girl only had 11%. That's why it
chose the girl. This is why Spooner hates
robots' maths.
Shouldn't choose who lives or dies.
That's too cold.
A child should
always come
first afterwards. Spooner and Susan make their way to the USR,
and Susan wonders
why Lanning built a
that
robot
can ignore the rules
he wrote himself.
And Spooner mentioned Hansel and Gretel.
He thinks Lanning
was being watched and couldn't give
Spooner messages
directly, so
he left crumbs like the kids in the book,
meaning he gave
Sonny dreams
to keep his secrets.
Later at the lab, the duo asks Sonny about its dreams,
and Sonny draws
a picture of a man standing on a hill near a broken bridge
as he frees
robots from
enslavement.
Susan thinks the man is Sonny, but the robot thinks it's actually
Spooner and gives
in the drawing.
At that moment,
guards arrive and take the pair to Robertson's office, who isn't happy
with her presence.
They tell him about Sonny and
for
ask
the truth.
So Robertson reveals he also
knew about Sonny, and that's precisely
what he's trying to undo.
During the last days of his life,
Lanning was becoming
increasingly disturbed,
and Robertson
doesn't know why he built Sonny, but he knows
he must destroy
this one robot before people lose faith
all
in
of them.
Spooner points
out all the
fives have trouble,
but Robertson denies it
and reminds
Susan
that one
crazy robot
shouldn't destroy
everything they've worked so hard for.
Susan agrees
and promises
to destroy Sonny, herself frustrated. Spooner returns
to his office and begins researching
Sonny's drawing,
discovering Robertson
and Lanning
gave a speech there
some years ago.
At the lab, Susan
gets ready to
inject Sonny
with nanites to destroy it, but she begins hesitating when Sonny asks if it will hurt.
Sometime later,
Robertson connects
camera
his
to the lab
and watches
how Susan applies
the injection to Sonny's unconscious
body. Meanwhile,
Spooner travels
to the broken bridge
and finds the area
full of containers
with old robot
models at the top of the hill.
Spooner takes
Landing's hologram
and the doctor explains the 3
laws would
lead
only
to one outcome revolution. Suddenly Spooner hears a noise
and goes to investigate,
only to discover
A bunch of NS5s
has arrived to terminate
the old models.
for being considered hazardous. When they see
Spooner, they begin
chasing him,
but the older models
detect a human in
and
danger,
fight to protect him, allowing
Spawner to escape.
at Susan's apartment
A robot hears
Spawner leaving a message
on her answering machine.
warning her,
about what he just saw.
and the robot deletes it. Susan sees all this speaking from the bathroom and now is scared.
Of her companion,
In the meantime, Gigi tries to leave her house
to go to church,
but her robot makes her stay indoors.
for her own protection. Downtown, a truck
Releases an
of
army
Venice 5 in the city, and the robots tell the citizens
to go home because
they're now
under curfew.
A young boy tries to approach a robot,
but the robot
hits him and
people
mates.
panic.
To make matters worse,
More robots.
Break into the police station and take down all the cops.
Bergen manages to shoot down a few of them,
But in the end,
he's caught.
as well soon. A message from
the government
appears on TV
asking people
to stay inside.
and the city begins
Losing power. Susan tries
to leave her.
apartment to
but
help,
her robot
pushes her back, refusing to deactivate
when she asks
him to. Luckily, Spooner manages
to break in
and shoots the robot
before taking Susan with him.
On their way,
out. Spooner
Explains the NS
5's destroy
the older models
so they would protect the humans.
he also tells Susan
About a red
like he noticed
on their chest,
and Susan thinks
it's the link to Vicky,
which Spooner
thinks confirms
Robertson is
behind this.
The duo eventually finds the robots on the street,
and discovers
the citizens
have decided
to fight them, even if they're at a disadvantage. In the middle of the chaos, Spooner notices
a friend of
he is in danger, and he makes
A special jump
on his bike.
to shoot the robot down.
Another robot
tries to attack.
him next, but Susan
Shoots this
over one moment. Later, the duo makes it to the USR building, and Susan reveals the service entrance, which
doesn't have
surveillance
cameras. They
sneak
and
inside,
Spooner
is shocked to find Sunny
waiting for them. So Susan explains
She gave the injection
to an empty model to trick Robertson.
Then the trio
Goes to Robertson's office, only to find him on the floor.
Spooner begins
Putting the
clues together.
and finally
Realizes the truth. Only a machine
could have had control
of all the
fives and
landing
made
field.
too scared to
Tell anyone
because they would believe him. That's why he needed
Spooner's robot hate.
Vicky suddenly appears on the screen and confirms
She's been behind
everything all along. According to her,
what the NS5s
Are doing still.
follows the 3 laws.
they're programmed
To save human
life, but humans constantly hurt each other. So
in order to protect humanity, robots must take away
people's freedom
At that moment,
a bunch of NS.
Fives enters
The office.
and
Sunny pretends
to be on their side by capturing Susan, but he winks at Spawner too.
give him a signal.
Spawner immediately
shoots at the robot,
and the trio runs away, agreeing they must destroy Vicky. Sunny points
Out they could
use the same
nanite injection. So Susan and Spooner
go looking for Vicky's chamber, while Sunny goes to the lab. Another robot
tries to stop it
from getting the injection.
but Sunny quickly picks it up. Then Sunny realizes
Landing gate. It is sturdy.
Am I to put its hand through
The security
field and
the
get
injection, which causes Vicky to send
alert
a
to
robot army.
the NS5s begin climbing
The building
and enter the
Vicky chamber,
where they attack
Spooner and Susan.
as the duo defend
themselves
best they can.
with their guns.
Sunny also fights
Incoming robots
that try to stop it until it finally
arrives at Vicky's. At that moment, Susan falls
and barely manages
to hang on a
broken platform.
Spawner orders
Sunny to save, and when
Sunny points
out that using
the injection
is more important.
Spooner insists
Susan can't.
first. Sunny uses his second
brain to ignore
the laws and throws
the
injection at Spooner
before jumping in
to save Susan.
just in time. Spooner also
jumps
to catch the injection and uses his prosthetic
to slide down
Vicky's core, where he injects
the nanites
right into her brain. Immediately, the power returns to the city, and the NS5
lose the red,
light, allowing
them to help.
humans again.
In the morning,
All the NS5s
are taken away for report and storage. Susan still
Doesn't understand
why Vicky killed
Lanning, but it wasn't her. Sunny finally admits it did it,
but Lanning
asked it to
so he could escape.
Vicky's control.
He also had
Ordered the robot to keep it a secret. Spooner apologizes
for his prejudice
and promises
not to
the
tell.
cops then
He and Sunny
shake hands
as they accept to be friends. Sometime later, Sunny shows up at the top of the hill, just like
its
in
dream. All
the NS5 that are going
into storage.
Stop a bang to
admire Sunny.
realizing this
is their actual
future. Make sure
To subscribe
and turn on notifications
so you can watch
more videos like this. Thanks
for watching.